from the Center for the Study and Teaching of Writing at The Ohio State University. This is Doug Dangler and Writers Talk. Today we are at the Ohioana Book Fair, the book festival, and we are talking to Daniel Hoyt. He is the author of Then We Saw the Flames, a collection of short stories that he describes as eclectic and ranging over a wide variety of topics. So welcome, Daniel.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Great. Well, tell me about Then We Saw the Flames. There's an interesting picture of a house at the top that looks like it's sort of being held up by a string, maybe collapsing.
That is actually artwork by a Cleveland artist named Amy Casey, and she's getting a little bit more fame these days because she always paints these pictures of houses and falling apart. Mm-hmm. It's been a perfect time for that, unfortunately, because of what's going on with the mortgage crisis, particularly in Cleveland. I knew of her work, and I thought it would really work well with this book because often my characters are dealing with lives that are falling apart, and this artwork represents that in some way.
Okay.
The characters come from all different places. There's a Turkish shopkeeper who lives in Dresden, Germany. There is a wealthy young boy who travels to Mexico with his parents. Maria Callas's maid plays a starring role in one story about Maria Callas, the opera singer.
Right.
And through this book, I've tried to examine the problems we all have, but through the unique lens of an individual character, an individual person. For me, writing allows me to live a new life, at least for the time when I'm writing. Mm-hmm. And I hope my readers get to do that for a short time too.
Okay. Well, tell me about teaching. You also teach in the English department at Baldwin-Wallace, right?
I do.
So what you're teaching creative writing and what all for that, and has that influenced how you write your short stories?
It probably does, because I think a lot about what works for me. I mainly teach creative writing, and it's funny because yesterday was my last real official day at Baldwin-Wallace College, and I'm moving on to Kansas State University. But as a teacher, I try to think about how can a student bring their unique vision alive in a story, but then we're writing a story not just for ourselves, but for other people. Right. So I think about my own process a lot, and sometimes in class I'll talk about my writing process, but not so that they copy it, but so that they figure out their own and what works for them. I'm an unusual writer because for me, I usually have some sort of starting point, and then the next step is to find out the end for a short story. So then the challenge is, how do I get from this point to point Z?
Right.
Yeah, and figure out M and P and Q and where they're going to fit in. Most writers don't work that way, but I talk to my students about how I do it, and how I have to in some way get invested in this world and then live in this world, and something strange will happen and something wonderful will happen. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they will get the strange and wonderful things to happen. Mm-hmm. I'll talk to them about it. I'll have them try all different kinds of things. I think also I try to get them to not just write about themselves, but to write about characters who are nothing like them. Mm-hmm. You know?
How do they get this? When you say the strange and wonderful, how do you define that in these books? What are you looking for that's strange and wonderful? Maybe you can give an example from one of your stories.
Sure. In my story, Amar, which is about that Turkish shopkeeper in Dresden, Germany, he hires a young woman to work in his shop, and she seems to have a misshapen back, and it's covered up. And he's intrigued by this. At the end of the story, she says that she's an angel and that she has wings that are bound up. And this is sort of legitimately strange, I think. It's sort of magical. But those moments don't have to be necessarily magical. It's those moments in life, sort of like an epiphany, where we learn something new, or we see the world in some slightly different from some slightly different angle. So for Amar, the shopkeeper, he doesn't want to believe she's an angel, but he does. Mm-hmm. And then so that challenges his worldview. What is she? Mm-hmm. Who is she? And I want my students to think about that. Those moments when we're not sure about things are often very exciting.
So you leave that ambiguity in the story where maybe she's really an angel, maybe she's not an angel, but that's the way that you want to proceed in stories and leaving that sort of open.
Exactly. I don't want to leave too much open, but a moment like that should be open. Okay. Because that's something that the character doesn't know. We as readers don't know. Okay. As a writer, I think I have an answer, but I don't share it. Yeah. But I.
The cruelty of authorship.
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
that you just don't share.
Right. The tyranny. Yeah.
Tyranny
that's
of the
right.
author.
We get to be in control of those things. Yeah.
Okay. What are you working on now? Are you doing more short stories?
I'm actually. I have 2 novels that are sort of in progress. One is set in Romania. I taught at a university in Romania in '94 and 1995. And so I'm writing about a Romanian family post-revolution and sort of their experiences with the revolution as well. I have another shorter novel, I hope, that's set in Lawrence, Kansas, and it's actually loosely based on a former creative writing professor I had. And it's very much fictionalized, but she was the inspiration of it. So I both of those are somewhat moving. Slowly, perhaps crawling, but they're moving.
It sounds like you're not having writer's block, but writer's slowdown. How do you deal with that?
My biggest problem is finding time, because I am a professor and that at BW I teach a lot. So because of that, I'm commenting on my students' work and doing service and meeting with prospective students and things like that. Summer is key. And finding those little moments when I can write is important. But for me, I really do want to get immersed in the world. So to get immersed in the world of a novel, I can't just turn it on and off for 5 minutes.
Right.
Because you're trying to imagine a whole place and an entire cast of characters, and they need to come alive. So maybe not a slowdown, but sort of a hiatus, unfortunately, that I wait for the breaks.
Right.
Summer break, Christmas break, spring break, and that's when I really get to feast.
Okay. All right. Well, I really appreciate your talking to us. The book is called Then We Saw the Flames by Daniel Hoyt, and it's available at all fine bookstores, Amazon.com, and good places like that.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks. And from the Summer Center for the Study and Teaching of Writing, this is Doug Dangler saying, keep writing.